Alright, so I brought my friend here today to do a top 10 list of the New 52 comics. Now, if you're not really a comic fan, back in 2012, DC decided to kind of relaunch or redo their line by making him the New 52. It was kind of like a jump-on point for a lot of people who've never read comics. And I'll be honest, it did get a lot of backlash, but I actually enjoy a lot of it. I had a good time getting into it. It's actually the way I got into DC and then went back further. So I really enjoy the New 52, but there's some duds, actually quite a few. But today we're going to discuss the top 10 best series of the New 52, and the best part about this is you can go back now and probably grab all these series for relatively cheap before you jump into Rebirth, which is a soft reboot launch, basically. So anyway, let's get on to the list. We have, each of us have 5 each, so it's going to make a top 10. List yours below, but first, watch ours. Let's go.
Kicking off with number 5, which is Brian Azzarello's run on Wonder Woman. Now, I can understand to a certain extent that this will be a polarizing choice for some people. In particular, the respect that Brian Azzarello really changed a lot of the fundamentals for the character of Wonder Woman. In the respect that he took away a lot of her femininity and also turned her into an Amazonian warrior princess as opposed to the ambassador and emissary of peace to man's world from the Amazons that we all know from, whether, you know, it's the Justice League animated series or if you've read the George Perez series of Wonder Woman. He also changed her origin story from when she was actually molded out of clay and was breathed life into by the gods of Olympus or by her mother Hippolyta, where she is now in fact the daughter of Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods, and Hippolyta. So it's, like I said, it's a far cry from the pre-established origin story and backstory that we know for Wonder Woman within this New 52 landscape. I will say that I really like the characterization of the Olympian gods as being basically just people with far too much power. Great writing and storytelling throughout by Brian Azzarello.
My number 5 is definitely going to be Justice League. Funny enough, before this, I hadn't read any Justice League title. After this, of course, I went back and read different runs, like Grant Morrison's and so on. But I kind of really enjoyed this one the most still. Maybe it's just because it's just like this really big scope, or it feels like a movie, or just maybe I just love how all the characters interact with each other. Sure, there are some weak spots in this run, and I really don't like Darkseid War, but I think some spots are just amazing. The start of it is great, fun, awesome movie-like adventure. The Atlantis crossover is awesome. I really enjoyed Forever Evil. I thought it was wacky and fun as hell. So in my opinion, Justice League really served as just kind of like a fun overall series, and I thought Jeff Johns did a great job with the new Justice League New 52 run.
Number 4 on my list is Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's run on Batman. Now, I will say that Snyder and Capullo really defined the character of Batman for the 21st generation. I will say the writing and the storytelling and the artwork throughout is absolutely fantastic by both Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, especially the Court of Owls, the Night of the Owls, and the Death of the Family storylines in particular. I will say that later on, unfortunately, Scott Snyder becomes, in his writing style, he becomes very exposition heavy and very almost dissertation-esque in terms of the writing style. So yeah, like I said, it's a great book. I really enjoy it to a certain extent, but it's not perhaps as good as a lot of people are making out to be. It's a fantastic run overall, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's the best Bat book from the New 52 plethora of titles that we got during the New 52 era of DC Comics.
My number 4 is going to be Dark Knight. While not perfect, I think Volume 2 are great. One story focuses on the Scarecrow, and the other focuses on Mad Hatter and kind of his origin story. And talk about twisted and fucked up. I really love this series. I also thought the art was really good. It had this stylish of kind of like a Nolan type Batman, but still that comic flair to it. And I also just really love to see like the origin of Mad Hatter and how screwed up his past was, and then Scarecrow and his way of how he kidnaps someone and how he almost defeats the Batman is great. So I just really like this series. Even the weaker ties like the Clayface one were still enjoyable, but those two in particular really stuck with me through the whole New 52 reading experience.
Moving on to number 3 of my list, and that is Frankenstein Agent of Shade. But basically, I would describe this series as being the Universal Monsters meets the Justice League 3000, which is basically a team comprised of the Universal Monsters characters. So we've got obviously the character of Frankenstein, we've got the character of Man-Bat, we've got the creature from the Black Lagoon, we've got a mummy-esque character as well as a werewolf character. And they just go on really crazy, like wacky sci-fi adventures together, fighting, you know, huge monsters and stuff like that. But also there's really great interplay and dialogue between the characters, and there's great storytelling and artwork throughout. Jeff Lemire actually wrote the first 7 issues before departing the series, and the writing was taken over with issue 8 by Matt Kint. I actually got the chance to meet the longtime artist Alberto Ponticelli at Comic-Con in Cardiff a few years ago, and I got him to sign my first volume. He's a really great guy and just an absolutely fantastic artist, and I'm really shocked to see that he hasn't got a lot more work since this Frankenstein Agent of Shade series. It's a real shame. But yeah, like I said, the Frankenstein Agent of Shade series, it's a really great series. Definitely deserves more of a readership. Sadly, it was cancelled after 16 issues, or technically 17 if you count the 0 issue.
My number 3 is definitely Shazam, a series I really didn't expect to like at all. Sure, it was very short, and sure, it was just a few pages in the end of like the Justice League comic when it was coming out in issues. However, it recreates a character I never cared about. Billy is the main character. He is the kid who becomes Shazam when he says Shazam, but he's like a real asshole in the series, which is a kind of a cool twist. And by the end, you really kind of just start to connect to all the kids in this, which I thought was really great, and it really made me wish that the series was longer. It's only 1 volume, but I highly recommend it, as it was one of the first ones I read, and I went back to it about 2 months ago. It's a quick, really fun read, and kind of makes you really excited for the Shazam movie, because they're basing a lot of it on it. So I really enjoyed Shazam New 52.
Moving on to my number 2 choice, and that is Pete Tomasi and Patrick Gleason's run on Batman and Robin. Now for me, this is the definitive Bat book of the New 52 series.
Okay, and I'm just going to take over from my friend here because unfortunately his audio got a little messed up here, so it's really hard to hear. However, I'm going to just go over the claims of why he thought it was one of the best, and actually I totally agree with him. Batman and Robin, to me, is the definitive series of the Batman during New 52 in terms of just being consistently good versus Snyder's having some of the greatest but not consistently. Batman and Robin really focuses on the relationship with Damian and Bruce, and you really get to feel for the father-son dynamic. And then on top of that, it has some of the coolest fight scenes, some of the best art in my opinion, and also some of the greatest arcs, because with spoilers ahead, something happens to a certain character and the other person has to deal with the death and the grief of that, and it did it really well. So what my friend was saying and what I say is Batman and Robin is probably one of the best series ever created for the New 52. My number 2 is definitely going to be Swamp Thing. It's an interesting series throughout. I don't think I ever fell in love with this series, which is weird because I really enjoy the character a lot, but I enjoyed it all the way through. It stayed consistently good throughout its entire run, and I actually think that when it got to the main story, like when it was talking about Alec kind of finding his place in the world, trying to do his job, his duty as a protector of the green, I thought, and then coming to terms with that, that's when it really shined. And I thought Snyder did a good job, but I really think I like Soul's run even better. It's the second half of the Swamp Thing run, and the art to me really got better. So overall, Swamp Thing is something that's unique, different than anything else out there, and worth reading.
The best title in the DC New 52 library, and that is I, Vampire by Josh Fialkov and Andrea Sorrentino. Now, this was my first exposure to both Josh Fialkov and Andrea Sorrentino as creators. It's just an absolutely fantastic series from a aesthetic point of view. It's almost very Vertigo-esque in terms of the overall feel and the characterization of the book. It actually might have done better as a Vertigo book in terms of sort of exposure levels. So we do see some guest appearances from, you know, DC Universe characters such as Batman and John Constantine, particularly within the first and second volumes of the series. And it follows the lead character of Andrew Bennett as he tries to stop his former lover, Mary Sue, aka Mary Queen of Blood, from raising a vampire army and essentially exterminating, you know, the entirety of humanity. But also, it really showcases the very complicated relationship that Andrew has with Mary, characterization and their relationships to one another, as well as their, you know, the interplay and the dialogue between the characters. And like I said, the artwork and the inking throughout by Andrea Sorrentino and Marcelo Maiolo respectively. Yeah, like I said, it's a really roller coaster of a ride of a series, and it's just absolutely fantastic, and is for me the best book of the New 52 that was sadly cancelled after 19 issues, technically 20 if you count the 0 issue. But anyway, that concludes my list of the top 5 DC and New 52 titles, ladies and gentlemen.
Coming in as number 1 is the Green Arrow, and this probably made me the hugest fan of the Green Arrow. After I read this, I went back and read like all the 80s and 90s Green Arrow, and I just love Jeff Lemire's run. Volume 3 to 6 is fantastic. It sucks you in right away, giving you a younger Oliver who's dealing with his first real threat in life, and some just great fucking fight scenes, amazing art, and it's a hell of a story to go along. And yeah, sure, Volume 4 and 5, the best volumes, are better than 6, but even 6 is pretty damn good as well. And then Volume 7 and 8, they feel totally different because it's not Jeff Lemire anymore, but they're still pretty solid as well. I definitely recommend skipping Volume 1 to 3. I only read the first volume. I barely can get through it. I heard 2 and 3 are even worse. Just skip them. You can get right into 4 and not miss a beat. So definitely Green Arrow is worth reading. And that, my friends, is our list. Now, New 52 has a ton of titles, some that we didn't list that you might want to list, like Wonder Woman, or even some other ones like Superman. I don't know why you would put that on here, but who knows. So yeah, list them below. I would love to see some New 52 runs, maybe ones I totally skipped and forgot to read or didn't even hear about. There were quite a few, and I heard some are just these underrated little gems. Underrated little gems. But I really want to see your list, so list them below. I hope everybody has a good day. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button. You know, share this with your friends. I really love doing these top 10 comics and top 5 comic videos. And yeah, have a great day, guys.